Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here is the host of The Pleasure Zone, sex, relationship, and intimacy coach and holistic health practitioner, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, 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 my sweet pleasure seekers. I don't know if you guys know, but play is super important. I know that sounds weird when we're like, this is the pleasure zone, and that's like serious, right? Because that's for adults, and adults don't do play, do they? They should. Adults should do play. I'm going to say that word should. Play is integral to our growth, our health, both our mental health, our physical health, spiritual health, all of it. It's integral to our life and our living. I'm just going to say that blanket statement because I fully believe that to be true. I know it to be true. And we can back that with science. So why not play with that today? We're going to be looking at how certain things, like what does play do for our bodies? What does it help lower? Does it actually do anything? Does it bring in oxytocin? Does it reduce cortisol? Well, yes, we'll start with that. What else does it do? And what is play? And like, how do you invite playfulness into your life when, relationships are incredibly serious, right? You got the bills to pay. You got the sex to have at a certain time, at a certain day, in a certain way. It's very serious. There's a lot of serious things to be done. And, we have kids now. We don't have time for that. Like, I can't tell you how many people will say that, or that there's just no time. There's no time for that. We're busy people. If you have no time for your partner to either play with them, have fun with them, what are you doing? I don't, you're definitely not living your best life. Um, if you're in an economic situation where, you feel like you have to work 45, 50 hours a day, maybe it's time to reevaluate what are you working that hard? Like, do you need to work that hard? Are you in a position where financially there's no other way? Is there a way to make it more pleasant and fun and playful? Are you actually enjoying life? There's so many things that I could backtrack on because usually it comes down to the choices we make. And I can say that from a place where I have lived at the brink of being homeless before. I have lived at the place where you're like, hey, you know, my mom and I, there was a year I lived with my mom. I hardly made any money. Actually, that happened twice. It was the year before I had my child. I lived with my mom for a while, had barely any money, was doing some supply work just to try and make some cash, even though I'm not I don't know if you call it supply emergency teachers. I don't know what you guys call it around the world, but we call it supply teaching in Canada. So we supplementary teaching. We supplement the teachers. And at the time, they were so desperate for teachers that I didn't even have a teaching degree. Right. So in the US, they call them substitute teachers. And I because I had a BA, I was able to do that. So lived with my mom. My mom was also trying to get her business going, and we pretty much lived off of whatever we could forage. For quite a while, and if it was the season, we would forage different foods. Man, we had some times, and we still made it happen. So why I'm saying that is that, yeah, you've probably gone through stressful periods in your life. And the chances are, if you are able to listen to this show, then you've got a device somewhere. It's got some value that you've worked towards acquiring. So you're able to actually listen to this. So you're probably not in too bad of a shape. You're working towards something in your life. So, yeah, we can now add play. We can actually have fun. And how can you have fun? I think it's really important to look at what is fun for you, because fun for me and fun for you are very different. And one of the things I also look at with play, especially playfulness as medicine, because play is used as therapy, has been used as therapy for decades. And it's been used in different ways as therapy. We could go through all of them, but I don't want to spend the entire show talking about different types of therapies, because there are so many different kinds of play therapy, whether it's like sand therapy, whether it's using types of sort of like Gestalt therapy to act out situations, whether you're using uh, toys as representations of different things. There are many different methods. If you've ever or never read The Body Keeps the Score, you probably noticed that in there is also several different kinds of play therapy that are discussed in there on how to use play therapy for trauma. However, there's also play therapy and types of play for erotic play that are also for improving your sex life. So these are all like super fantastic tools to look at. So yeah, go grab The Body Keeps the Score. I'm a big fan of audiobooks. I find that I do better listening to audio and having a book sometimes to follow along with. But if you happen to have it on audio, it is great. Re-listen and listen again and again and again, because you're going to find you're going to learn a lot of things from it. So one of the things that I mentioned in kind of the write-up of the show is how we're going to look at things like how play is vital for long-term erotic connection, and how play and playfulness heal stress and release tension, and they can, and play can reignite erotic energy. Also mentioned the science of laughter and oxytocin, and also how play can transform conflict into connection. So I put a lot of content in here. I think I overestimated myself and how much information I can cram into one show. If it happens that I don't get through all of it, we will do a part 2. But for right now, there is a lot of information, guys. The beauty is that there is a lot of information out there as well that you can find, that you can research. One of the key contributors to actually looking at play as a method for healing was a woman named Virginia May Axlin. And she was one of the founders of something called non-directive child-centered play therapy. And she modified another person's work, Carl Rogers' person-centered approach, and she modified that to be for children. So the short form of it is CCPT, child-centered play therapy. It's where you let the child lead the play and then the therapist follows. So usually you can get a lot of information out of kids through that. And I had prior to like really diving into a lot of information on play therapy, let's backtrack 30 years. I went to university for psychology, and some of the stuff that we would learn in psych classes, we would watch videos of different things. We would watch like developmental videos as well, like how children develop, and you could see at a certain age, like a child crawling across a piece of glass would all of a sudden become aware of dimension and space, and that they, could fall. But a child at a certain age younger doesn't perceive that, and they could just crawl across. So they do a lot of research with children, different things on watching how the brain develops and certain motor movements and certain things we can perceive. But they also did a lot of videos as well on different types of play therapy, and watching children as they would show you different things. And so when I was a nanny, I was a nanny for 3.5, 4 years, something like that. I think sometimes I say 3, sometimes I say 4, because I think it was like right in between. Anyways, I was a nanny for a number of years. Um, those years, the kids that I worked with, so I worked only with one family, and there were 3 kids in that family. And like 99% of the time, everything we did was child-centered. So they would lead the day, I also had them like vote on things, like even lunch, like they had a say in everything. And I like to hope that that actually contributed to the people they are today. I have seen them since. I just saw them, all the kids actually, I just saw them in April and they're like in their 30s, which blows my mind. And they're all like super lovely human beings. And I like to think I contributed to their early childhood development and helping them to know that they have choice, and also to provide a space for growth and for exploration and instead of telling a kid how to play, offering them certain things. So these kids had this amazing playroom. It was like, honestly, it was kind of like being Mary Poppins, frankly. Like they had a playroom. Well, in the first year, they didn't have a playroom like that, but then they moved into this amazing house. Um, and they had this giant playroom, and their mom had made it in such a way that they had like all these bookshelves, and then they had like a puppet theater, and then they had curtains that would close, and they had like a whole dress up center. It was like amazing. And these guys would like just find their thing. What were they gonna, play that day? And I would just, I would let them direct me. So it was always fascinating to see how and what it was they were processing that day. And the littlest guy, he sometimes would have like a really, sometimes he was processing, I think, things that other people in the house were experiencing. He's like super empathic, so he's feeling a lot of things. Some people might even say he was experiencing past life things. So he would get sometimes his sword out, and he was ready to like take on the world. He needed to be a knight. He needed to rescue people, and he would work through a lot of things, and he would work himself into a sweat defending everybody and everybody's life, just in case people are dying, and flinging himself off of furniture. Anyways, he was quite the riot. um and of course, if he was leading the play, we would all be engaged in that too. But each kid would have a turn to be the leader, which I felt was a helpful way, like that everybody got to do what everybody wanted to do. They also had the choice to not have to do that, but if you were going to be led, then you do what the leader is asking you to do. And so I found that to be really helpful in seeing what they were going through, but also so that they could, in their own way, work out whatever was going on with them, process through physical movement and play. They could process things. And there is research too that shows that, like, normally we need to hear something about 400 or more times in order to get it. But through play, you can get that information in a lot quicker. Between 10 to 30 times is what they're now finding, that through play, you can actually learn a lot faster. So a lot of stuff like those fundamentals that you learn in kindergarten, having play continue through school is far more helpful than trying to get kids to just like sit and um, memorize. Memorizing is not play. They would learn a lot faster through play. Just saying, putting that out there to the school board, who should know these stats, and to the Ministry of Education, who should also know those stats. But anyway, so child-centered play, both for learning, for self-expression, for processing, is fantastic on a daily basis, and also for somebody who feels like their child is going through something, it's going to be far easier for your child to go to somebody who does play therapy to work out their stuff than it is to just have them maybe sit and talk about all of it. So, different methods. So you've got the CCPT therapy, it's child-centered play therapy. There's integrating different kinds of things like Gestalt, like I mentioned. There's something called the Oaklander model by Violet Oaklander. So yeah, I could go on, guys. There's so many different therapies that have developed over the years, and so many contributors to all of that work. So one of the things, because this is the pleasure zone, is we are going to talk about the different kinds of erotic play therapies that are out there as well. And we'll talk about that after the commercial break. So stick around. I also have a story for you about how I accidentally got married for the second time this weekend. I'll share that with you guys after this commercial break. You're listening to the Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. In the last little segment, I kind of just gave you a lowdown on play and how we know that play can be part of the healing journey, right? So it can be used therapeutically. It's been used in therapy for many, many years. It's used mostly with child therapy. However, you can also use that same play therapy for trauma as well. There, like I referenced in The Body Keeps the Score, there are references to using different types of play therapy, even for adults, to be able to work through trauma and traumatic experiences. So there's that kind of play. And then we have erotic play. So everyday play versus erotic play. So what's everyday play? And I think that for some people might even be like, what on earth is like everyday play? Everyday play. So I'm going to give you examples in my life. Everyday play. Right before the show, I was walking in the kitchen to get a bottle of water, and my husband passed me and gave me a spank on the butt. Now that's everyday play. And so those kinds of like playful little gestures, because he knows that I like that, him doing that will, boost me up. I'm like, yay, ready for my show now. Got my spank. Woohoo. There's other things like, actually, I'm just going to give you a whole bunch of examples from my own life first to show you everyday play. So earlier, we had like a really big rainstorm that was like off and on all day long. And at one point I said to my husband, I'm like, I don't know, do you want to have potato salad tonight? We're out of potatoes, but I could go buy some. And then the rain just starts pouring down and pouring down. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just find something else to make. He's like, well, what about that potato salad? I'm like, but it's pouring out. He's like, yeah, well, I dare you to go out there. So I was like, dare me? Dare me to go out in the rain? So I took the dare, went out in the rain. But I also gave him this look, and I don't know what it looks like, so I don't really know how to imitate it, but apparently it's that look. And I feel like my face will just, it's kind of like a teenage disgust look. And He's like, I was hoping you were going to do that look. So, it's not one of those things where some people will do looks to their partners and they're offensive and people feel offended and hurt. They're just like silly little things that we do that make each other laugh. That's part of everyday playfulness. Everyday playfulness is where you both find it amusing and you find it cute. It's not where one of you finds it amusing and you're hurtful to the other one. That does happen. I hear people do that a lot. And then the partner who thinks they're being funny is like, you don't know how to take a joke. You're not funny. I can give you examples of that too, which are, okay, let's say, for example, you've got a partner who comes home from work and they're just like angry and start, chucking things around the house and and then they get confronted about their behavior and like, whoa, I didn't mean it. I was just joking. So like, throwing the chair into the wall and making a hole, that's not really just joking. So it's not playful, but in order to not get confronted pretending that it's play or funny or playful, that's what some people do, but it's actually just being evasive and not actually dealing with the situation. So those like passive aggressive attitudes are fantastic. That was just aggressive rather than passive aggressive. Passive aggressive can be bleh, it's not so playful. Aggressive, not so playful. Unless you're doing it in a playful way where we're talking about, you know, consensual non-consent, that's where, it's usually more in the kink zone, which is completely intended to be playful. Consensual non-consent means, you've agreed in advance that you might be saying things like, no, 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 I don't want to give you a blowjob, but you've already agreed that that is kind of what it is, but you're just playing the game, you're being playful. So that is part of more of the erotic play. And then the everyday play, let's get back to the everyday play. Everyday play can be anything from being playful and silly, like jokes and spanking and flirting and that sort of thing, to being actually just, some people just play. Like they might enjoy playing cards together. They might be playing, going for a walk together, and maybe they want to skip down the road together. I don't know. Dancing, like all of those things can be considered play. They don't have to be silly. I'm more silly than I am the person who's going to, and I will skip down the road, let's face it. But I'm far more that than the person who's going to sit down and play poker with my husband, although my husband likes poker. I play other games, card games and board games, because I do like to play I am a nerd. And I do like, for those of you who know, I love puppets and dolls. So I make everything come to life. And that bemuses my husband and amuses and bemuses him. So that can be part of being playful. Now, would I take that puppet and turn it into erotic play? No, because my husband doesn't have a kink for that. I actually don't have a kink for it either. I just thoroughly enjoy it. But can you take something in your life and create it into your erotic play? Yeah, you can. So how do you invite erotic play into your life? So first of all, you got to be willing to have sex not be so serious, because sex, I mean, the consequences of sex can be incredibly serious, like having a child or an STI. However, sex itself can be just incredibly fun and be a useful tool for releasing stress. And I've talked about this on some shows before about how a lot of people with ADHD also have hypersexuality. And one of the methods in order to reduce stress hormones in the body, they'll utilize sex in order to create oxytocin, reduce cortisol, and just have their bodies relax more. So can you just look at some of the things when it comes to erotic play? Erotic play doesn't just have to be your standard sex, for sure. That's when we can tap into the kinky fun world of different things. And if you haven't listened to any of my shows on kink, now's a great time to go back and listen to there's probably over 200 different shows on different things that I will talk about sex, and I will talk about kink on a lot of the episodes, even the ones on trauma, because kink can be an incredibly useful tool on reducing trauma and using kink as a playful erotic method to reduce all the different stress hormones, but also to shift trauma so that it's not still activating your nervous system. So you're not still in fight or flight. You'll go from having your body in sympathetic, like overdrive, to being able to calm down. So when we look at the different things for erotic play, I think one of the main things to think about is the keys that I've talked about before, which are communication, consent, and curiosity. So if you're with a partner and you don't even know how to ask for something, then the whole zone of kink and play can become really tricky because you got to learn the communication first. Not assumption, not reading between the lines, but actually have a conversation, because you need to know the limits as well. You need to know what are your safe words. You need to know, especially if you're new at it, and even if you're old, you need to know um, whether you feel safe and what needs to change, and then also aftercare and all the usual that goes with kink play. So erotic play is equally as important as everyday play. So everyday play is kind of like when we talk about core play, and it's like all the fun, playful ways that you can be with your partner during the day, even they don't seem to be sexual. They're just you connecting with your partner and having fun. Random kisses, random hugs. I personally, like if my husband's at the counter in the kitchen, I don't know what it is about him. I just always want to like dry hump him from behind. And after, 12 years of being together, you would think this doesn't surprise him anymore, but he still gets delighted and surprised by the fact that I dry hump him as if I have like a massive dildo on. And I don't. Like I don't have a strap on or anything like that, but it's the energy, my friends. Like I can deliver energetically. And he's not even a guy who likes that, but coming from me because I'm such a dork, he allows it. He allows it. And I think he's moving into enjoying it. So it's not like he's ever been like, hey, can you just dry hump me right now? No, I'll just approach him, and he's never denied me dry humping him from behind. So that's a lovely thing. If he was like, hey, wait, no, 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 don't do that. I would stop. So sometimes you can approach your partner. So if you've never read The Wheel of Consent, The Art of Gifting and Receiving, The Wheel of Consent, go read that. There are 4 different ways of consenting, right? So it's really important. Like that one, my husband was an allowance of me doing that. And so it was nice of him to just allow me to dry hump him, which is playful. So other playful things you can do is do just like nice little gestures during the day too, whether it's sending sexts or whether you put a little, give each other little notes in, your lunches, or being playful can just show up. I don't even know, it just shows up. But I do realize for a lot of people, it doesn't just show up, because what happens is sometimes, um, as the Gottmans refer to it, as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse show up, and there's things like resentment and all these other things that are coming in that are actually starting to pull away from you wanting to be in a relationship, and sometimes you feel like you're at that point of no return and you just don't even want to put the effort in anymore. So before you get to that place, this is like, let's make sure that you're taking the steps on a daily basis to enjoy your partner and be playful. Not everything has to be serious, but you do need to have serious conversations as well. And one of the best ways to be able to open up to have communication is to start with it being playful. It doesn't feel as threatening. And if you do have important things to say, you will get them said. If you've already gone to the point in your relationship where you've been with somebody for, a decade or several decades, and you've never truly said to them the things that are important to you, now's probably a good time for mediation. So either contacting somebody like me, who is a sex and intimacy coach as well as a relationship coach, uh, contact other relationship coaches. They will give you tips and tools, but also get you to help you find your own solutions that will work for you. They'll guide you to that. Or go to a therapist if you need to talk it out, or go to a mediator, because there's a place of like no return where you're just living with somebody and everybody's miserable. That starts to affect everything. It will create more stress, which will create long-term health issues. And if you don't know how or why that happens, it can give you the lowdown on that. So you are listening to the Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we will be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome, my sweet pleasure seekers. Today we're talking about playfulness as medicine. And we know that play is used in therapy, and we also know that playfulness can be medicinal. For those of you who are looking to have a connection to more play, I am opening actually up my retreat space and offering very small groups under 6 to come and enjoy curated, especially for you, weekend retreats. So there could be play involved too. One of the things that I like to do is play in my work is to do a kind of painting therapy, which is super playful. There are no rules, and you find out in the end how freaking brilliant you are. So you might see in the back wall that there are some paintings. Some of those are mine. One of them is not. And they were all ones that I did for moving energy and doing things to, they were therapeutic paintings. So if you are watching on video, you'll see that there's some colorful things in the background. There's like an orange painting and a crazy blue painting, and then another kind of red one. Well, those are all like, I have so many of them in the house. They're not all over the walls, but then they're ones that I have done to move energy. And so you can have just a lot of fun doing play. And those ones actually have a method to them. They might not look like it, but there is a method that you get in, you do a little something, and then you move forward. So, and also want to let you guys know that if you are enjoying the show and you've been enjoying the show for maybe this is your first time, but maybe you've listened to many, I'd love it if you could just go onto iTunes. And if you search for the Pleasure Zone, you can give me a 5-star review. I would super appreciate that. The more reviews, the better. The more I also feel like continuing to do this and offering this free service to people. My show for me, I create this show to give you guys access to information. So I love doing the research and sharing the information, but I also love sharing my experience and how I find these things to be helpful. Um, I will tell you if I've never done something on this show. I will, generally point out that I haven't done that, but I'm aware of it. But most of the time I've done a lot of different therapies in my life between, yeah, like movement therapy, gestalt therapy, energy, different kinds of energy work, different kinds of talk therapies. Like I've done so many different things. NLP, EFT, I don't know. So many things. All right. So when one of the things that I do love to have is, like I think I mentioned earlier, is I love having groups to work with. And I like small groups. I prefer groups of 10 and under. And right now the space that I offer is available for 10 people for 1 half day or 1 day workshops and 6 people for 2 day workshops. So if that's something that you're interested in, please connect with me. I am in Canada, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you. You can find that you can connect with me through my website, milicajelenic.com. That's Milica Jelenic. And you can just send me an email through my website. That is usually the easiest way to go. So, yeah, that would be very fun. I literally am launching that next week, but I'm giving you guys like a heads up. And I will be doing I will have at some point in the next few weeks available uh, a, a little preview of the retreat space on my website. So look for that as well. All right, guys, playfulness and why is it so important? And every time I say that, it's really funny. Like I have so many toys in my house. For those of you who actually know me or have been clients and have been in my house at some point, although my office is now not, this office is in my home, but the office that I work on people is on another part of our property. And so most people don't actually get to be in the house to see all the toys that I have. So I have a lot. And not a hoarder. I just happen to have a lot of toys. I have a lot of dolls and puppets. Anyway, play for me is one of the key things that I think a lot of people who have had childhood trauma missed out on. And so bringing play back into your life is, I think, one of the top priorities in being able to honor your inner child, being able to tap into your inner child, and then nurture that inner child to be able to grow up. So that part of you that didn't grow up, that never could play, that was like an adult from day one, but never got to play, but then doesn't really know how to be an adult because developmentally never got to be a child. That part is the part that you get to integrate into your life again through play. And the beautiful part is because play is one of those things that you can learn from so quickly, like the stats are showing that you can learn, or the science is showing that you can learn something in between 10 and 30 times during play rather than just trying to memorize it 400 times. So having retreats for me is where I can bring you in and it can be playful. Your body can integrate it faster. And then you can both learn more and then you can have the life you desire. Because what I target to do is to invite you into more pleasure in your life in every way, whether that's getting out of pain, whether that's getting out of physical pain, emotional pain, lack of connection pain, all those pains that everybody in some way has felt in their life. And my target is to bring together resources, whether it's the work that I do or whether I bring in other resources to assist, is to offer a space to be able to bring people back to pleasure. And part of pleasure is playfulness. It just is. I really don't think you can have pleasure without play. And play is pleasure too. So They go in hand. So that was a bit of a tangent, kids. Sorry about that. So why is it so important to do this play? Why do we want to do it? Well, one of the reasons is, and I'd mentioned it earlier, that play lowers cortisol. It lowers cortisol because your body starts to get out of fight or flight when you're playing, even if, say, for example, you're playing a game of tag as a kid, you're running, you know that that game is going to be over, and there's a satisfaction with, say, tag, where you tag somebody and then you get a satisfaction. You get a little endorphin hit. You get a little, you get like hits of happy hormones during play. You know, you'll get your dopamine, you'll get your oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins during play. Play, happiness, pleasure. So your body will drop the cortisol, get out of fight or flight, even if you're running. And it'll drop out of that because your body will switch over when it knows that it's in play and it's not under threat. So most people, though, when they run, their body doesn't know the difference and it will kind of kick into threat. You know, I don't know I used tag as an example, but I did. But anyhow, so we're going to drop the cortisol, get out of fight or flight, and get into rest digest. So rest digest is where your parasympathetic mode comes in. So rest and digest. We want our bodies to be in that. We also don't want our bodies to be in that place where your parasympathetic has gone on overdrive and then you're in frozen, because that can happen too. What we want is your body to have everything come to calm, because in a place of calm, you can heal. So why is play healing? I'm just going to really simplify it. Play is healing because it allows your body to start to burn the cortisol, right? So you're getting rid of that. You're increasing oxytocin. You're increasing, your probably your dopamine, your serotonin, and your endorphins as well. Your body starts to relax. You might even start laughing. That also starts to help things, relax in your body. Your muscles might tense up temporarily, but then they relax when you're laughing. Your blood pressure will start to drop as well. Your heart rate will start to regulate. Your body will start to become happier. And guess what? Your body heals when it is in rest digest. It starts to heal. It otherwise doesn't. It's just trying to survive. So what also happens when your body goes into the rest digest parasympathetic mode is that your body starts to reduce inflammation. And we like that, right? So there's a lot of talk around inflammation and chronic issues out there. So we want to be able to increase all those happy hormones with, improving the mood through things like play and laughter. You'll also end up having better sleep and better recovery time. Even if you're like doing workouts and things, your body will recover a lot faster. Your body will recover a lot faster from other stresses as well. So not just like the physical stress of a workout, but your body will recover faster from emotional stresses as well. And that is going to help in general to help your body heal. So better sleep, better recovery, better healing, better health, more happiness, right? So the easiest ways to lower that cortisol, and if you look this up, I bet if you just go Google search this right now, you're probably going to find that some of the top ways to lower cortisol naturally are through play and laughter, because that has been proven to activate the parasympathetic response and reduce cortisol, through touch and oxytocin, because touch will increase your oxytocin. So things like hugs and cuddling or massages, and then breathing practices. And we talk about all of these all the time on here, guys, because they're so important. They're so simple and they're so important. So doing, breathing in slow, breathing out slow, doing different types of breath work where you might be doing like a sharp in and that through your nose and then an out. It's like a really sharp one. I hope you guys heard that snot inhale and then out, and you feel your belly moving. And you might be doing other ones that are like or you might be doing interval breathing where you're like, In for 5, hold, and out for 10, or in for 4, hold for 4, out for 10. Or you might just do a regulating breath, which is like in for 5, out for 5. Either way, intentional breath work is super helpful. Holy cow, guys. I could talk about play forever, apparently. We're heading to the next commercial break. You are listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is The Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. I realized as we went to last break that I hadn't told you guys the second accidental marriage story. The accidental second marriage story. That's how it should be worded. So, the accidental second marriage that happened on Sunday, September 21st, is quite amusing. All right, so here it goes, guys. My husband and I, and we were with my mom as well. We went to an event, a local event that is held at one of these old-fashioned villages, where everything is set up like it's the 1800s still. And we're wandering around. It was an event for Eastern Ontario homesteaders. And we're walking through the buildings, blah, blah, blah. And then walking to a building, I thought, oh, wow, that lace is so pretty. And all those like old wedding dresses are so beautiful. I just thought it was a display. I didn't realize that the display was there to lure you in. And then I got lured in and I walked into the building that had all the beautiful lace, not thinking much of it. No, my intuition wasn't on at that moment, I guess. And I walked into the building and I was drawn to these plates, and I'm looking at these plates, and I was like, oh, and I said to my mom, oh, I think those are like the fine bone china that I inherited from my grandmother. They look really similar to the pattern. Mom's like, yeah, I think they might be similar. So we're staring at this stuff, and my husband walks in, and so Mike walks in, and this guy accosts him, and I thought, oh my God, what happened? He literally yells in Mike's face, did you come here to get married? And he yells at him and Mike is like taken aback. Mike is 6'2". This guy is maybe 5'5", and he's in his face. And Mike is like a really gentle dude, and he has no idea why this guy is yelling at him. Plus, Mike is hard of hearing, has no idea what the guy is saying to him. And the guy asks him again, did you come here to get married? And I look at Mike and I'm like, what's happening? We're both scared. He grabs Mike and he says, just say yes. And Mike is like, okay, yes. We are now in a shotgun wedding. And I'm thinking, am I the one that gets to marry him? What's happening? I don't understand what's happening. Gets pulled off to the side. And the guy runs off and he's like, I'm going to be right back. And he goes and he says, I'm looking for the minister. And he runs around. And then he realizes that the minister is in the same building, but on the other side. And since the buildings are from like recreations of the 1800s, there's no lighting in here. The guy's like in a corner, hiding in a shadow, but wearing a giant green robe. Like you can't miss him. So he grabs the minister. Well, first he's like, fine, I'll be the minister. And then the minister's like, I'm the minister. So the minister comes over and is like, who's this man marrying? And the guy's like, well, this lady. And I'm like, you sure he wants to marry me? Like, just we don't wear rings on our hands because of the work we do, but we have rings. So nobody would know if we were married or not married. And the minister grabs Mike, pulls him aside, is like, "Do you have the fee?" And Mike's like, "I don't know what's happening here." So they hand Mike some coinage from the 1800s. Mike pays the 6 pence for us to get married. And then this little 5'5" dude who was first going to be the minister representing, I guess, he wasn't truly supposed to be a minister, grabs me, and then he's the one walking me down the aisle, pulls me in front of the hearth. And next thing you know, we are having vows read to us by the minister, who, by the way, is actually a person who, what are they called? He has the right to marry people. Like, this is a legit dude who can marry people. Reads us the vows, and then we had to do the I do's. We did the entire ceremony. My mom was in the corner going, "What the heck is happening here?" The whole marriage takes place in less than 10 minutes, which is funny, but there were more people in that room than we had at our actual wedding. We literally got married on Zoom. It was a bad storm, and like nobody showed, and like we hadn't really planned anybody to show up, but even the people who were going to show up without us having anybody show up couldn't show up. So here we are, getting married again. And we joked, the thing is, we were joking about it like this last week, saying, "Hey, it'll be 10 years in December. And you know, we always said we'd have a party on the 10th anniversary." And so Ziva wasn't there with us. Ziva misses the entire second marriage. And when we finally come home and tell Ziva what happened, the disappointment was huge. We get hand fasted even. We were tied together. Our hands were tied symbolically, all of that. Like everything symbolically that happens during a wedding happened. We had all of it. Because we'd already signed papers before, this is technically a second marriage, guys. It's hilarious, but it's true. Oh, the guy was a wedding officiant that married us. So yeah, he's legit. And it was total shotgun. And and we were both told you can't say no. And we're both like, wow, this is the scenario. And the vows, I have to say the vows were fascinating. I couldn't see them. So we had to repeat them because I didn't have my glasses on, and neither did Mike. So neither of us could read. So we were like people, we would have been like considered as truly uneducated of the 1850s who couldn't read our own vows. And they were so unique. They were not like the ones you hear in church, "Till death do us part." They were nothing like that. It was stuff like, you know, "I'll look after you till the sun never shines on Ireland anymore," or something like that. It was Irish. The vows were very Irish, and I'm going to see if I can find them. And if I can find those particular vows, I will put them up on social media because they were hilarious. Anyway, guys, I got married for a second time, threw us for a loop. Now I can joke about it. And we laughed about it then. And now people are like, "So when's your honeymoon?" If it's anything like the last time, our first marriage, we didn't have a honeymoon right away. We waited a year. We chose to. We also chose not to spend a lot of money on a wedding because it was more about loving each other and creating a life together rather than having a giant party. So yeah, if we are going to have a second honeymoon, it'll probably be from a year from now, because our last honeymoon was a year after the fact. The first honeymoon, Mike was really sick. He was like coughing up a lung and snot everywhere. It was so sexy. We still went on our honeymoon because I was going to go on that honeymoon whether he went or not, because we were not getting a refund. And I was like, screw it, I'll just go on the holiday by myself because we're not going to get a refund anyway. So he ended up going. I hope I don't have to shotgun take him away on the honeymoon the next time, but what a joke. Add play to your life. Go get married a second time randomly at some place in the middle of the day in September. Who knows? Who knows when you're going to get married next? Have fun with that though. But what I'm saying, guys, is invite play into your life. We could have said no. We could have walked out of that place and got mad at the man. We didn't. We took it. We had fun. I hope you guys do too. So remember to add more play.
Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical,